Today I'm speaking to you from the historical park. As you may be well aware, we've been in the process of doing some restoration work to our mid-century church that's out here. And part of the restoration and renovation and making it all really exciting out here is we are doing some extensive landscaping. It was kind of a challenge and certainly one that I've enjoyed working on. With this mid-century church, and that's last century, not this century, it's a prairie church, but our setting happens to be more in a woodland area. So I'm trying to give you the feel that you're in a prairie that has blooming plants, but actually I'm going to give you the benefit of the shade. And I thought it might be fun to talk about some of the specific plants that we're using in this landscape. For the most part, we've tried to go native, but recognizing that some plants really have some great attributes, we've introduced some adaptive plants as well. As the plane goes overhead, I'm going to select a plant here for us to talk about. I'm going to start with this one. This is a wood violet. We selected it because of its ability to grow in the shade. It will grow at the base of trees. It's a great plant in that setting, and we have quite a bit of that setting back there. Plus, it's an old-fashioned plant. It's a plant you would have found at this time period when the church was originally built. It has little bitty flowers in the spring and it's delightful. This is one of those adaptive plants. This is called blue zinger sedge. It's a great evergreen or ever blue ground cover. It's a low grass. It tends to spread with rhizomes underground, and the clump just gets larger and larger, but it doesn't really attain any height. It'll be really nice against our flagstone walk that we're putting in. Now this plant is winter honeysuckle, and you are probably looking at this thinking, why would she plant that? What attributes might it have? But this plant, come the end of January and February, will fill the garden with a wonderful scent. About the time that we're ready for the seasons to change, you will get that wonderful scent. You'll have to go up and look close for the flower because it blooms right next to the stem. But great native, great shrub. It gets easily 5 foot by 5 foot, but the fragrance is outstanding. And speaking of fragrance, another plant we're adding in is rosemary. Great drought tolerant plant. We're picking some of the sunnier spots in which to place this plant. Don't be fooled by its size. This is a 1 gallon container, but this plant will easily get 4 foot by 4 foot. Now, if you are judicious in your pruning, you can keep it tighter and smaller. But you know, here I think we're just going to let it have its way. Black-eyed Susan is a plant that probably you're familiar with. This particular one is Rudbeckia goldstrum. I like it. It doesn't tend to get as buggy to me as some of the other Rudbeckias, and it also has a very nice evergreen rosette through the winter. So while we won't have flowers, we will certainly have this rosette, so it will make the ground look quite attractive. An old heirloom plant certainly makes you think of the South, and it was a plant that was often shared and passed along was the southern wood fern. This plant will get about 24 inches tall. It's not evergreen, but when it's in full foliage, it'll sort of make you want to sit back there on the bench or the swinging bench and perhaps sip a glass of sweet tea. Very I think it influences how you feel in the garden. When you're in a garden of ferns, you automatically have to exhale. Good for relaxing. This little plant is called rain lily. With all the rains that we've been having this fall, perhaps you've noticed fields that come up with little white flowers. They're there one day and gone the next day. Well, these are rain lilies, and they naturalize quite well in our area. Primarily, you're going to get bloom off of them in the fall. This particular one is Candida. and it is evergreen. So you can pick a spot in the garden and you don't even have to remember where you planted this particular bulb. It has a year-round presence. Greg's Mist. This plant looks fairly innocent, but when you put it in a spot that it likes, boy, does it take off. So we've got a few difficult areas back there, and we're hoping that that is their spot and this takes off. It has a beautiful blue ageratum type flower on it, and it is extremely attractive to butterflies. So we often call this one a butterfly magnet. We have some established stands of this out here in this garden and in some of the other gardens around City Hall. So if you want to see how much the butterflies love it, now's the time to come visit with the monarch migration. This one is called Hairy with Delia, and I sort of love-hate this one. This one also makes itself at home. It tends to reseed. It's easy enough to pull and to control, but it does bloom these really nice yellow flowers and does very well in filtered sun with low water. Makes kind of a basketball's too small, but it makes a really nice big mound of yellow flowers. But when it gets sort of out of control, whack it to the ground, come back and look at it 10 days later and it's going again. So I think it's going to work well along our pathway. We're trying to put plants there that we can mow once or twice a year so that our maintenance is minimal and we're not trying to do a lot of deadheading down on our hands and knees. So I think this is going to suit our needs very well. Now here's a plant that I might be a little bit brave to try. It's called Leer leaf sage. It is a sage. It blooms primarily in the spring with a lovely blue flower. You can see the old flower spikes here. Now what makes it a little bit treacherous is that each of these little bitty tiny seed pods are full of seeds, and it loves to spread its love. So we're going to see if this will fill in the nooks and crannies in a sort of a controllable way. It again has a presence in the winter, a simple evergreen rosette hugging the ground. It will take to mowing, and I hope just kind of fill in all the little niches. Now while this specimen is probably not the best looking specimen, if you'll give it a year in the garden, it'll be glorious. This is side oats grama. And side oats grama is the official state grass of the state of Texas. And it's called that because if you look at its inflorescence, the little seeds all want to hang to one side. So we naturally need to include the state grass of Texas in our prairie landscape that's growing in the woods here. Another tremendous butterfly plant and hummingbird plant is Turkscap. This is a great selection for dry shade. It will grow as an understory, but it doesn't mind creeping out into the sun. At my home, I have it growing along the driveway where there's a tremendous amount of reflective heat, and it's in full glorious bloom right now, and I can see the hummers coming in every morning for a little bit, and in the evening they're coming back. Good plant, dies to the ground in the winter. A little bit slow to come up in the summer. It likes it hot. It's in the hibiscus family, so that might explain some of that. But a great plant for the woodland garden. And I'm going to wrap it up. Oh no, I have one after this. This one is a Dahlberg Salvia. It's a reseeding salvia. The plant will typically perennialize, but it will reseed as well. Another huge pollinator attractor. And it will have white flowers, so that we have a couple of plants in there with white flowers. The white flowers will make the garden especially enjoyable in the evening. Always consider white if that's when you're going to enjoy your garden in the evening. And then I'm going to finish up with this little guy. This is sea oats. Sea oats is a grass that grows in dry shade. There's flies around me. Dry shade, and only maintenance required is that we cut it back in the spring so it can flush back out green. I think you'll see that we've got a pretty good selection of native plants and adaptive plants. We've looked for different colors, we've looked for different textures, and we've looked for different peaks of the year in which they are at their best. For example, we put quite a few Yaupon hollies back here. So our Yaupons will give us a beautiful green in the summer, but in the winter we should have the red berries. We've also added the possum haw, which is the deciduous Yaupon, for the red berries. We have also put up hollies along the walk, and those will give us red berries. What my hope is that you could come out for 4 weeks in a row, and every week you would see something new and different. This garden should be alive and vibrant and dynamic and always changing, but it should always say welcome. I hope that you'll come out and see the garden. There are a ton of events planned for the fall out here. Check the city's website and don't miss the ones that are super fun. I hope to see you in the garden and have an amazing day. Thank you.